Welcome to Compass Points, the weekly podcast for CompassKnox.com. CompassKnox.com is your best source for news and politics in Knoxville and Knox County. If you'd like to learn more about the topics discussed on today's podcast, go to CompassKnox.com and subscribe for in-depth coverage and much more.
Hello and welcome to Compass Points, a podcast about Knoxville and Knox County government, politics, business, education, just about anything else that moves in Knox County that gets our attention. I am Scott Barker. I'm the editor of Compass. We're a subscription-based website and newsletter where we report on all that stuff. And you can find us at CompassKnox.com, where you go to subscribe. You can see what we do there, and hopefully you'll find our reporting valuable to you. So we are recording this in the opulent studios of Barbarian Productions in Rocky Hill, where our producer, Lord Seth Barber, cracks a whip on me and just about anybody else who walks in here. You got to be on your toes when you enter the studio. So Seth, what's the 3-day-old weather report?
I'm thinking I want to double it up and make it like the 8-day-old weather report. Saturday's weather last week was fantastic, and Holaroo went really well. I got real lucky with the way that my event dodged the crazy weather we've been having. But another interesting weather week for sure. We got some serious storms. Thoughts and prayers and whatnot to our friends up in Kentucky who went through it a lot worse than we did. I was talking to Jesse earlier today. He said he got stuck in Nashville for a day because his event got rained out. And so it's been another crazy weather week here. And so it's certainly noticeable how different this May has been than Mays in the past. I mean, it's almost chilly today.
Yeah, it is. And you beat me to the punch. I was going to ask you about how Holaroo went.
It was a great day. Like I said, the weather we completely gapped out a perfect. Friday was gross. Sunday was gross, but Saturday was beautiful all day. A little warm for me running around trying to keep everything straight, but I think for everybody in attendance, the weather was the right kind of weather to be outside, enjoying an alcoholic beverage for the first time on the streets outside of downtown proper. We really got to take advantage of that new ordinance change that we went through and stuff like that. So for everybody that came, thanks for coming. For everybody who didn't come, you missed out on a great fun time with some great soapbox derby and rock and roll show action.
All right. Right, we're in the middle of Memorial Day weekend, and we hope everyone is enjoying themselves. To
continue the weather, it's supposed to be a dry weekend for the first weekend in many moons.
And so enjoy the holidays, rest up, enjoy your time off, but also, on Monday at least, take a little time to think about what this holiday is. It's not really a celebratory holiday. It's more of an observance holiday, and always like to when holidays come around, not to just ignore what they're about, but to really at least reflect on them briefly, if even before you hit the grill or whatever. So we are going to go through, as we always do, what happened last week in Knoxville and Knox County. And one of the things that happened was the former mayor of Knoxville and former governor of the state of Tennessee, Bill Haslam, was appointed as a UT trustee. He is a legacy, and we'll talk about that briefly. We had a couple of pieces on banned books and what's going on with them in the libraries, and a threat to a reading program that played out in county commission meeting. That county commission meeting was very filled with a lot of news. It was just very very busy, hard to keep track of everything. The big news, of course, that came out of it really was Commission passed Mayor Glenn Jacobs' budget. We'll talk about that. They also set a new rule for the chair of the commission speech. that was a very controversial and contentious discussion. I mean, they were civil, but I mean, it was there were some sharp exchanges and on that. A lot of discussion about free speech and the First Amendment. And you think that all this, the county mayor passes a big budget, $1 billion budget. You've got this free speech controversy with the county commission. You got banned books. You got a lot of stuff going on. And then on Thursday, City Mayor Indya Kincannon said, "Hold my beer. I got something for you." And it's a proposal for a sales tax increase. It would be the first one in 37 years if it passes. And that's the thing we're going to lead off talking about now. It is our, essentially the lead. Kincannon wants to raise the sales tax, the local option sales tax, from 2.25% to 2.75%, and that is the maximum allowed by state law. Tennessee, we have it's kind of a two-part system on sales taxes. There's the state sales tax, which is 7%, 4% on food or groceries, not just any food, just groceries. And then there's the local option sales tax, and it has the maximum, as we said, 2.75%. So the maximum that taken together, the state maximum is 9.75%. The Knox County and the city of Knoxville have held steady at that 2.25% level since 1988 and 1989, because they passed it on separate years. The city and the county did, and we'll talk about that in a minute too. But the everybody else just about is already at the maximum level. We have Blount County, Sevier County, Granger County, all these counties that are adjacent to us. Anderson County are at their local option is 2.75. All the cities in those counties is 2.75, and a majority of the counties and municipalities in the state of Tennessee are at 2.75. So they've maxed out. Knox County and the city of Knoxville have never maxed out. So the kind of odd situation here is the city of Knoxville isn't going through a financial crisis. There's not a they're not saying that horrible things will happen if we don't get this, but there are some financial uncertainties with budget cuts that the Trump administration and the Republicans in the Congress are pushing through. There's the tariffs and how they're going to affect consumer prices, things like that. So Mayor Kincannon basically said, okay, we want to do this, and this will help us in the future, where we don't have to worry about some other things and be able to afford anything, the raising property taxes. What this will do is this half-cent increase will bring in an extra, they estimate, $47 million a year.
So I have a question on that particular, because I was reading on it, and maybe I missed it in reading through the story this week, or maybe they haven't said yet. That $47 million is total new, or is that the city will have after it kicks out its requirements to schools?
Good question. It is all coming to the city. It's all new. What happens is if the county and the city basically have the same rate, then the city has to give half their revenues, sales tax revenues, to the county school system, or to the school system. Actually, the city of Knoxville gives 72%, not 50%, which is the minimum requirement. But if the city goes it alone, the city passes this, the county does not, and the county could join the city in this referendum. And I'll get to that in a minute too. But if the city raises the sales tax rate, the county doesn't, then 100% of that $47 million will go to the city. And the one thing that the administration is trying to do is point out that Knoxville is a shopping hub. It's a regional thing, and so a lot of people come here from other places to buy things and pay pay their sales taxes here. Those people can be from Roane County, Anderson County, Blount County. They all come here. They go to Westtown. They go to Turkey Creek. They go downtown. There's a lot of that.
I mean, I can speak to the idea that I have people that come down from Kentucky that come shop with us, partially because some other stuff in Kentucky state law that we're allowed to sell in Tennessee that they aren't allowed to sell in Kentucky. But, like I have regular customers that come in every couple of weeks from Kentucky.
Yeah. And so what the thrust of that is that this is a tax that other people from other places share the burden. It's not just Knox County or Knoxvillians who pay the sales tax. It's everybody who comes to Knoxville, and these are people who come. They take advantage of amenities. Their vehicles drive, go on the city's roads, create some of those potholes everybody complains about, those kinds of things, and so the idea is to get them to help pay for amenities in the city. And that also includes, other places in Knox County, like Halls or Carnes, Corryton, people who live there who come into Knoxville to buy things and do things. And so, the city wants to be able to, at least the administration wants to be able to capture that. And it was kind of interesting. One of the things that I found out when looking at this is the city of Knoxville has accounts for about 39% of the population of Knox County. Knox County is right at about a little bit over 500,000 now. City of Knoxville is almost 200,000 in population, but and this is because of finger annexation and these outposts of the city that are around these nodes, like Emory Road between Powell and Halls. That interchange is actually in the city of Knoxville. So thanks to all that, and people who come here from other places, Knoxville is where 68% of the sales tax revenues that are collected countywide, 68% of that is through Knoxville businesses. So it's kind of an outsized impact there. And,
right. So the summation of that would be the city has less than half of the population, but collects way more than half of the sales tax revenue generated in the county.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So I had another follow-up question while we're on it. Is so of that $47 million or so, is that included? Would that be on top of the current budget that they are passing, or is that going to be? Is that already kind of weaseled into some of the expenses and stuff for this year? No,
it's not. One thing, they're basically separate right now.
Okay.
You've got next Tuesday, City Council is going to be voting on the budget for the fiscal year 25-26. They've already got the revenues, projected for that. That'll cover that. That's not a concern. This and I'll go ahead and give you the timeline on this. Is first of all, the city council would have to approve putting a referendum on the ballot, because you can't raise the sales tax without going through the voters. You can property taxes, but not sales taxes. And then if that happens, then it will go on the ballot in the November 4th general election. So it would be on the ballot then. If voters approve it, then it would take effect probably in March of 2026. So it'll be several months after it passes. That's to give businesses time to do all their things that they do, waving those magic wands to make sure that they're we used to call them cash registers. That's a point of sale systems.
Right. The state revenue office will have to update.
Yeah.
Which probably isn't a particularly difficult thing for those of us that have to do sales tax payments. There is a form that does the math for you, but you have to fill it in, and that form has to be up to date on that number too, I suppose.
So that would be in, and of course March is in this budget that is going to be voted on this week, is, like I said, for the fiscal year 25-26, which runs through the end of June 2026, and the earliest that this would be able to start is March of 2026. So you got about the fourth quarter is when revenue would start coming in, but they're not counting on that for that budget.
Right, because even when you turn your sales tax in March, which probably wouldn't be that actually turned in until mid-April, it wouldn't come into. They say it's at least a month, if not two, to get that cash back into the locality. So it sounds like it. If everything runs the timeline, we'd actually start seeing that in the coffers locally, as they would to say, in June or July of 26 anyway.
Right.
That makes sense.
And, of course, the question that a lot of people would have with this whole process is, why would I want to vote to tax myself? Of course, the administration's kind of anticipating that. They've got going to have they've got 5 kind of broad categories that they're going to put the money toward. One of the things that Mayor Kincannon said in a press conference on Thursday was that they had, from their various departments in the city, $70 million of infrastructure needs that they could not fund in this coming budget. So there's a lot of need out there. 5 categories. Biggest one's greenways and street paving. They're going to have, of this $47 million, $12 million will go there. $10 million will go to affordable housing. The parks will get $20 million. The traffic calming sidewalks will get $10 million, and facilities and maintenance will get $5 million. So, they kind of have this earmarked. They're going to, they say that if this gets put on the ballot from city council, they'll be developing a more detailed explanation of exactly where the money's going to go. But they're hoping that the people in the city of Knoxville will think that those are worthwhile and worth paying for, and that they will vote to go ahead and do that. And of course, you don't know, but there is some precedent here. Back in the last time that the city raised taxes, the sales tax was in 1988, 37 years ago.
Right, and if I recall, they argued that one of the key components was that it was going to put a significant sum into the school system.
And the big thing, and I think that happened actually about the same time with the merger of the two school systems. But one of the things was the city was financially struggling.
Right.
I was for this story after this, after the press conference they had on Thursday. I talked to former Mayor Victor Ashe, who was the mayor the last time this went through, 1988. It was so bad. They were only paving 5 miles of streets in the city per year, just 5 miles, citywide, and it had been 11 years since they had hired a firefighter. It had been 7 years, I believe, since they'd hired a police officer, so Ashe put together a proposal, a little bit more. What he said is more detailed than what Kincannon has put out so far, and but they talked about we are going to they increased, I believe, 7 times the number of the mileage and streets that they paved. It went up to 42 miles in a year, split among the 6 council districts. They identified street by street what they were going to do year by year, which has become the norm now. I mean, you can find out exactly when the street in front of your house is going to be paved, whether it's going to be this year, next year, year after, whatever. You can do that now because that's been kind of standard for what the city does, and he enlisted the help of neighborhood organizations because they would benefit from a lot of this, especially from the street paving. But they did the groundwork. They went door to door and in their neighborhoods and the adjoining neighborhoods and really kind of drummed up support this, and it passed with 63% of the vote, which is just absolutely astounding to me, especially now. Different era of politics, completely different era. So I wouldn't imagine this. I wouldn't bet the over on this one if it gets to the voters. But anyway, that is one of the things that's we've got the city and their effort. It's really a way to prevent future property tax increases, and is one aspect of it. And for example, I mean basically that $47 million to raise that annually through a property tax increase would be a 60-cent increase in the property tax rate. So if there would be pitchforks out there if they tried to do that.
Especially following we did a property tax increase, 2 years ago?
Yeah.
That quick together and that much, I can see some rage.
But one of the things that one of those quirks in Tennessee law that makes things interesting to live here is what the county can do. If the city council decides to put this on the ballot, if they vote to put it on the ballot, and they'll be doing that in the next few weeks. They'll have to vote on it in the next few weeks in order to do all the timing to get the question on the ballot in November. But the county then has 40 days to decide whether they're going to piggyback on the city's referendum. And what would happen then if the county commission voted to join the city in this? then there would be a county-wide vote in November, not just a city vote.
Ooh, that'd be neat.
And it'd be a special election for county folks. And if it passed, and all the jurisdictions have to approve it, but if it passed, then the city wouldn't get to have the whole $47 million. They would give half of it would go to the county directly, and half of it would stay with the city. The other half would go to Knox County Schools. It would be 72%, it'd be 50%, but because as I mentioned earlier, that would mean the city and the county are in lockstep together with the property tax rate. Sales tax rate, and so what is that? 23.5 million would go to the school system from the city side, and 23.5 from the county side too.
All right, so my pundit hat is telling me that this is the politics of this move for Kincannon is she wants to sneak it in before she's out, A, and B, before Jacob's out, who has promised relentlessly to never raise taxes on Knox County.
Right.
And so this might be I see. It's a backdoor way to keep the city keeping all the money because, I don't think
it's back door. I think it's right through the front door.
Well, I'm just saying, but as far as why now? Because there's a number of city council candidates that are that are getting termed out. So we've got a bunch of city council races coming up, and this is going to turn into a hot topic super fast on the campaign trail, which may make it hard for some councilors that are trying to get some seats right now. But again, you're gonna lose half that money real fast once Jake's out of office. It sounds like, yeah.
Now the one thing about that makes talking about the timing of that, yes, everyone who is on city council right now is term limited, except for Debbie Helsley. There are the 5 council members whose terms are up this year, and the election in November will have the races for their seats on the ballot, and then the other 4 will be 3 of them will be term. Helsley again is not term limited, but the other 3 are, and so they'll be out in 2027. So. Right.
So other than Helsley, nobody on current council has an election to look forward to.
Well, unless they decide to run for another office.
Right.
But anyway, the county can piggyback with the city and do that. I would be flabbergasted. I would be stunned if they did, because as you said, Jacobs has sworn not to raise taxes. I don't think he's even considered sales taxes, because he always talks about property taxes. But I'm pretty sure this extends to that. And I don't think there's no stomach on county commission to defy Jacobs and go ahead and do that on their own, which they could do. So at least for the first year, if it passes, then the city will keep all their $47 million. Now, once it passes, then it gets kind of interesting, because it's easy. I mean, $47 million is a pretty good chunk of change. Basically the city could just about they probably, if they wanted to, completely pay off the convention center debt next year if this passed. They're not going to. They're apparently not going to, because they've already said what they're going to spend the money on. So when county commissioners are the county finance people are looking at their budget and gnashing their teeth and losing sleep, trying to make sure it balances without, and all, then they'll look at that and go, man, the city's got it made right now.
Mm-hmm.
And they could change their minds. I don't think Jacobs would. I think it would be up to the next county mayor to push that through if they want to. So we're talking about 2 years down the road, where the city's going to pull in $100 million almost, just in new sales tax revenue. But that is what happened after the 1988 city referendum. The county mayor, actually county executive at the time, that was the title of county mayor back then when people were saner than they are now. But the county executive, Dwight Kessel, was dead set against raising the sales tax. Dead set against it. Wouldn't even consider joining the city. The city passed it. The city was suddenly flush with money. Kessel and several other and several county commissioners looked and said, that's not a bad deal after all. They passed the referendum to raise the sales tax then. A similar thing could play out here, although I wouldn't expect it until at the very earliest 2028, because I think Jacobs is going to, Jacobs is not going to, I'm sorry, not 2028, after 2026. Because Jacobs is not going to raise any taxes. It's kind of interesting. One thing we didn't really report on, because it's really kind of premature, is Betsy Henderson, who is running as a Republican for county mayor in 2026, sent out a comment, a statement yesterday or Thursday afternoon when this all went down, and even though she doesn't live in the city of Knoxville, she sent out one, condemning the raising the taxes. Said she'll never raise taxes. All that.
It's certainly not out of character for Betsy to speak on things that are not in her jurisdiction.
Well, yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute too. And then Larson J., who is running for the Republican nomination for for mayor as well, said that it's too early to talk about this kind of stuff. So, I think that those are two different ways of saying we're not really going to consider it, at least for now. So,
right.
But anyway, the next steps here with the city is the city council will be holding a workshop on Thursday of this week, and that I'm sure is going to be long, and people are going to be asking questions, which is good to get a better understanding of exactly what the administration is asking council to do, and what council can do, and what they may or may not do. And so that'll be coming up this week. And you mentioned Betsy Henderson, or actually I mentioned her first. You mentioned her second. But one thing that was kind of interesting, we were was at the county commission meeting on Monday, and one of the things they talked about, they passed Jacob's budget. We'll talk about that in a minute. But one of the things they did that was kind of strange was, Betsy might as well have been there. Henderson might as well have been at the county commission meeting. She wasn't. She wasn't mentioned by name at the county commission meeting, but she was everywhere there, because one of the things is, if you folks may recall, back in January, she went after the school board voted to expressly voted not to support, throw their support behind the private school voucher plan that Governor Bill Lee's. She just a few days later went to the legislature and went to a committee meeting and identified herself as county mayor, or not county mayor, excuse me, as the county school board chair, said she was speaking as a private citizen, however, and gave a full-throated support for school vouchers. That's paying parents of students the paying tuition to go to private schools. Very controversial. And one thing she didn't do is she didn't say that while she was speaking in a private capacity. And by the way, the school board doesn't support this. She left that hanging, and I think a lot of people were mad about her speaking out because they just don't, they were anti-voucher, but a lot of people also that she, basically that silence there could give the impression that because she was a school board chair and speaking about this, that was the school board's position, was that they supported school vouchers, which is absolutely not true. So if you recall, we talked about this too. We covered it when it happened. Next school board meeting comes up. County Commissioner Terry Hill, who represents the same district in Northwest Knox County as Henderson does, went to the school board meeting and, as a private citizen, took Henderson to task for doing that. Was very angry about it, and so they can't do anything about the school board. County commission can't do anything, but they can do stuff about their own rules. And so Hill brought a proposal out that would require the commission chair, not all commissioners, just the chair. If the chair is speaking outside of their meetings in public, and a similar situation comes up where their political beliefs were at odds with the decision of the collective decision of the commission, that they need to disclose that, and to kind of eliminate a similar situation as to what happened with Henderson. It generated a lot of discussion. Hill thought it was kind of self-evident that it was, doesn't really restrict the chair can still talk about whatever the chair wants to talk about. They can, as long and they can criticize the collective decision of the commission, as long as they'd say that they were in opposition to the majority on commission. But there was there's a lot of pushback. Shane Jackson, who is one of the three Democrats on the panel, just couldn't. He saw that as a violation of the chair, whoever the chair is, their First Amendment rights. That was restricting speech. It was restricting speech based on content, and was which is really tough to do. So there was a long discussion with Strange Bedfellows. He was on the same side as Angela Russell, who is a very conservative commissioner, represents Southwest Knox County, and Andy Fox, who we've talked about before on the show, who was a very conservative representative in South Knox County. And others on commission. Almost every commissioner spoke, which is there. A lot of times there are commissioners who and city council members too, when you talk about the city, who sit back and listen most of the time during meetings. Not so in this instance. Damon Rawls is the only one who didn't speak to this matter. But this was also not really a partisan issue. One of the people who spoke in favor of Hill's proposal, was Cortney Durrett, who was she's a Democrat, like Jackson, on the other side of this issue, but she was also the county commission chair for a year, and she, as a Democrat, which was unusual to begin with, but as a Democrat, she was not a few times at odds with the will of the collective will of commission, and she talked about how when she was the chair and she was speaking to people, she would have to say that this is, this matter is my personal opinion, and commission did the other thing. Commission decided this, but I did that anyway. They went back and forth over, it was about an hour of debate, and really it was when he came down to the vote, it was as narrow as they could get. It was a 6-5 vote in favor of Hill's proposed rule, and it's a rule for the chair to follow. Now there can be consequences for breaking the rule. If they break the rule, they could be censured. They could lose committee assignments as long as it's not an ex officio. They're not a member of a committee by a virtue of being the commission chair. And there was one thing. It was interesting. Nobody said anything about this, but Gina Oster, who is the current chair, I misspoke. Rawls didn't participate. He didn't say anything during the debate, but Gina Oster, who is the current chair, because it would directly affect her, did not participate either in the debate. However, she agreed with Hill on, so if you looked at this as being a restriction on the chair, she was fine with it. So that is something that future, at least for now, Oster and then future chair of the commission will have to abide by as they move forward. And that, like I said, that was just one thing that happened, on this meeting on Monday. The other big thing was Mayor Glenn Jacobs' $1.119 billion budget. It wasn't really it in and of itself wasn't controversial at all. It was going to be easily approved. No property tax increases in the budget, as we talked about Jacobs' philosophical opposition to tax increases. So you would think that there wouldn't be much discussion. However, Andy Fox was asking a lot of questions about nonprofits. There is a lot of discussion in some Republican circles, especially conservative Republican circles, especially the circle that includes our friend Eric Wider is a political consultant, very conservative. He's very outspoken on social media about nonprofits and the ones that should or should not be funded by Knox County, and a lot of these. He helped Fox's campaign. Fox brought up a lot of these at the meeting. It was kind of interesting. One of the things he was doing was he was asking what various nonprofits did. Now, commissioner held a budget hearing the previous week.
Right, which is the place to ask those questions.
And virtually all the nonprofits who got money from Knox County government had representatives there. You could ask questions. Fox showed up late for the meeting, didn't really ask questions, but he came back to they had another public hearing, budget hearing, before the voting meeting on Monday, and he came back there and started asking us questions. They weren't there. Everybody had asked questions of them they were going to ask, and so he just asked the county administration, basically Chief Financial Officer Chris Caldwell, about these, what these different nonprofits did, and it was really strange because he asked about what the community schools did. He asked about what Tennessee Achieves does. He asked what the CAC, the Community Action Committee, does. All three of those are, especially the CAC, have been long-standing initiatives here. Tennessee Achieves is, 15 years old now, and it's the youngest of the three initiatives. And it was just kind of odd that someone who is an elected official and active in civic life didn't appear to know what they did. But a lot of that is kind of goes back to fishing a little bit. The one of his big questions was money that the county gives to Visit Knoxville. Of course, they pay Visit Knoxville to promote tourism in Knox County. They pay them out of the hotel motel tax. But he was, and again, this is something that Eric Wider has brought up online, is took them to task because they were giving money to Visit Knoxville, and Visit Knoxville has provided support for Pride Fest. And he was adamantly opposed to the county funding going to Pride Fest through Visit Knoxville. Well, he had to be quickly disabused of that notion because the county does provide funding for Visit Knoxville, but for specific programs at Visit Knoxville, and almost all of it is for promoting Knoxville and Knox County. So that's not money that goes to Pride or any other, or a lot of other groups that Visit Knoxville helps support. So it was just kind of a strange thing, and his colleagues got really mad. They,
these meetings are long enough. Why do we need to do?
I
can see the perspective at least.
The reason is that it certainly gave the impression that he was not prepared.
Right.
And
there's only two logical conclusions. It's either he's trying to put on a show for political purposes, which is understandable. That's what the stage is for him. Or he literally didn't know what was going on. And if I'm one of the other people, I could see the logic in being a little frustrated with either one of those reasons.
Yeah, well, and one of the things that they pointed out to him, and it's one of the things that I've talked to people, and because it's the way that effective local legislation or legislators work is, if you don't know what an organization does, you pick up a phone and call the organization, or you pick up the phone and call the administration, the finance, the chief financial officer, Caldwell. Call him up, find out what they do. Because, first of all, you can call the organization. They'll return your call. You're a county commissioner. There are, once you become a county commissioner or a city council member, people who never returned your calls before will return your calls now. So, you can find out in a quick phone call whether you need to be concerned about an organization or an event or things like that. And sometimes newer members, Fox is new. He was elected last year. So they might not know all these things, but they also kind of need to learn to talk to people. Damon Rawls had other issues with him. We'll talk about those in a few minutes. But one of the things, and because it kind of is an outgrowth of this as well, said, listen, I'm fairly new too. I have breakfast with Chris Caldwell once a month, I think he said breakfast. It might have been coffee with Chris Caldwell once a month to find out what's going on in the county. What are they spending money on in my district? Those kinds of things. And other commissioners said the same thing. Larson J. talked about how, you got to do your homework. You got to find out. All you got to do in most of these instances is, instead of grandstanding at a meeting, you can pick up the phone and call. For his part, Fox was saying that he was sincere in wanting to find out these things. He was not, that he viewed himself as being prepared. So there was that, and that was, that went on, for quite a while. And then, one of the example of that is something that we're going to segue into our books discussion, is that Fox wanted to ask some sharp questions about the Tennessee Freedom Schools reading program, summer reading program. The Tennessee Freedom Schools, founded by the Children's Defense Fund, and it was designed to be a supplemental reading program for low-income students, or students from low-income families. And so he was asking about that. Rawls, who has participated in that, reading to kids who come to the program and things like that, he got into a spat with Fox about that, and finally Fox kind of admitted one of the things that he thought that the books were promoted an agenda, promoted critical race, or that arose out of critical race theory, and were anti-white essentially, and it looked at systemic racism. He said the United States, there was systemic racism in the 50s. There's not systemic racism now, but wanted to kind of root that out. Rawls pointed out, of course, critical race theory is something that is studied in graduate schools. It's not relevant here, and challenged Fox to show up this summer and see for himself what books are available. They're all library books. And read to the kids, do all those kinds of things. So we'll see. We'll have to check back in with Fox and Rawls later in the summer to see if he actually did that. The other books issue is that the Knox County Schools libraries, as a state law, have to they are removing books that are parents complain are objectionable. And since the first list was announced last fall, the number has doubled. So it's kind of accelerating some of the titles that are being taken out. This is something that we've been following closely. One of the things that's going on with this that could end this kind of thing is the ACLU has sued the Rutherford County Board of Education on behalf of students. Now, the ACLU or the Rutherford County Board of Education's removed 145 books, and the Knox County Schools, after adding 65 titles to the books that have been removed from the shelves, been 113. That's 113 books in Knox County Schools that have been banned since the state law took effect. We'll be keeping everybody updated on book removals, and that's one of the things that is, we as journalists, one of the things that's doesn't go over real well with us is censorship and removing titles from the schools is something that is a very serious matter, and we'll be following this and reporting on this as in the future as well. So next we'll go to a little bit of higher education. Bill Haslam, as we mentioned earlier, former governor, former Knoxville mayor, scion of the Haslam family of Pilot Oil fame, was named he was appointed to the UT Board of Trustees. It's kind of an interesting thing. One of the things is he might be the only Haslam, I believe he's the only Haslam of his generation who did not attend the University of Tennessee. He went to Emory. But one of the things is, he's a legacy as a trustee, because his dad, Big Jim Haslam, was a UT trustee for 27 years. And as anyone who's been in Knoxville very long knows, the Haslam family is practically synonymous with the University of Tennessee. Two of the colleges on the Knoxville campus are named after Bill Haslam's folks. The Jim Haslam, his name adorns the College of Business. His stepmother's Natalie Haslam. She recently had the business or the music school named after her. So we've got two Haslam colleges at this campus. There are Haslam scholars, there are Haslam chairs in various disciplines throughout the Knoxville campus in particular. Football practice field named after the Haslams. It's just they've given tens of millions, maybe into the 100 of million, probably. They to the university. They endow these chairs. They give to general capital campaigns. They do a lot. That goes back to Big Jim playing on the UT national championship team in 1951. So it goes back that far, and he in fact is the only living player on that team left. So anyway, but his son is the one who's making this news. Bill Haslam is going to be on the Board of Trustees. He worked very closely. He'll be overseeing Randy Boyd, as the president of the system, kind of like old times when Haslam was governor. Boyd was one of his top aides. So it's that's still, that dynamic is still there. So most recently, Haslam has been he's been in podcasting too. He and former Governor Phil Bredesen are co-hosting a podcast Brett is a Democrat, Haslam a Republican. They've been co-hosting a podcast, on getting along in politics, kind of a civics. And in fact, it's kind of sponsored by the Institute of American Civics at the University of Tennessee. Anyway, so that's what Bill Haslam's up to nowadays, if anybody's wondering. And that's everything that we had going for this week. Next up is an interview with Cortney Piper, who's a parent and advocate for children who have disabilities at Knox County Schools. She is going to be talking about a major special education report that pointed out the good, the bad, the ugly with Knox County Schools, a special education department, and how they do things. Courtney is, as I said, she's a very, very passionate advocate. And we'll go to that interview right now. Our guest this week is Cortney Piper. She is the parent and a staunch advocate for students with disabilities in Knox County Schools, and she is going to talk about this report that came out about 2 weeks ago now, and about the state of special ed in Knox County Schools. First of all, welcome, Cortney. Glad you could join us.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you for having me.
Oh, great. So, Cortney, give us a little background on the report, what led to the report, and then and we can talk. Then after that, we can talk about what is actually in the report.
Well, Scott, what led to the report was in the summer of 2023, the superintendent, Dr. Reiswick, put together a special education task force to evaluate special education in Knox County as part of his continuous improvement mindset. One of his pillars for Knox County Schools is success for every student. And in 2023, there were a group of parents that included myself that really questioned that part of his commitment to Knox County Schools, because we found our children with autism were not being served to the best of anybody's ability in the school system. And we made quite a deal about it in front of the Board of Education that resulted in some policy change. So after that occurred in the summer of 2023, the superintendent put together a task force. It was made up of parents and 2 Knox County special education teachers. We produced a memo in August of 2023 that identified several deficiencies within special education, including a culture of resistance. And we produced 5 recommendations from that task force report. What then happened is Chairwoman Betsy Henderson unanimously passed a resolution calling to make Knox County Schools a model for special education. And that's what got us to this report. One of our recommendations was to bring in a specialist in inclusive practices. And what Knox County Schools did is they identified a consulting firm that could do a complete and comprehensive audit of Knox County special education services and to really discover where there were strengths and where there were deficiencies. And that was presented at the May Board of Education work session.
Yeah, our correspondent Angela Dennis wrote the story on that. So I have it secondhand reading her work, and but it seemed like there were some positive things for the school system and some not so positive things. So first, let's look on the sunny side first. What were some of the takeaways from the report that were positive?
Well, a couple of things. So I think the really great thing that the consultants did with this report is they looked at data and they did one-on-one interviews and they ran focus groups. So they were able to take a lot of information to get a full and complete picture of special education. One of the great things that they found was that by and large, parents really appreciate, and enjoy their children's teachers and support teams at the school level. So the special education teacher, the occupational therapist, the speech therapist, autism support, the list could go on and on with your child's specialized team of professionals that are there to make sure their educational needs are met. That was one bright spot. There were also a couple of areas in the report where the consultants noted that Knox County Schools has made great progress when it comes to pre-K education and integration, and providing services and support to children early on in a blended integrated pre-K program. Some other things that it found that were positive is that Knox County Schools has actually established a lot of great frameworks, plans across a number of different areas. One is to manage student behavior, but then on the flip side of that, they found that they were not applied consistently, which is a consistent challenge within Knox County Schools. They have created a policy, they've established a framework, and it is not applied consistently throughout the schools.
I want to go back real quickly when you talked about the pre-K advances in the blended program. That is where students who have special needs are with students who don't have special needs in the same classroom. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay,
and they're
good.
with each other. They're with each other all day in that classroom, and that classroom not only has a general education pre-K teacher, but there are also special education teachers in that room as well, full time.
Okay. What were some of the areas where the consultant found that Knox County Schools could make some improvements?
Scott, there were many.
Yeah, well, I got that from Angela's story, but yeah, just give us a couple of them that stood out to you.
When I read this report, it was actually really difficult for me to read because of the number of deficiencies that were identified, and I really just sat back in my chair and thought about why that was so difficult to read and why there were so many deficiencies. And I think what it really points to is a lack of leadership in the special education department within Knox County Schools. And that poor leadership was allowed to persist for far too long. And that's why we have these lists of deficiencies. Now, you asked for some examples. I would love to provide some examples. The first one that really struck me that I think parents notice most often in the school is special education is under-resourced from a human capacity standpoint. So what this report found is in some instances, there are case managers with 40 students. That's one person managing individualized education plans for 40 students. That is far too many, and we cannot expect excellence. We cannot expect success for every student when you have one person managing that kind of caseload. You can only expect survival. And parents have noticed this. I have noticed this in schools as well. There simply just are not enough human professional bodies within the school system to fully support our students with disabilities. So that's one. Another one that I can group into reading support, which I also have personal experience with my son, is the report noticed that we are not fully supporting students that have reading disabilities, or what Knox County Schools would label as reading and writing fluency, a specific learning disability in reading and writing fluency. There are a number of specific medical terms for that, but probably one most people would be familiar with is dyslexia. Mm-hmm. And what I noticed with my son is for over a year, when he was in first grade and the beginning of his second grade year, I kept noticing his reading scores just kept plummeting down. And I would ask questions and say, hey, should I be worried about this? this just doesn't look right. His scores are going down. He doesn't seem to like reading. As a matter of fact, when we read, he'll read a sentence and then it's like he's exhausted and he's over it and he's hit a wall. And I got responses ranging anywhere from, oh, that's just autism. When we use this evaluator for reading, our friends with autism kind of have a hard time with it because we ask them to sound out words that aren't real words. And I said, okay, if a professional who has gone to school for this is telling me not to worry about it, maybe I can put this off of my to-do list. And then I also got things like, well, we don't test for dyslexia. And that is a common thing that you will hear folks say in school meetings is, we don't diagnose for that, we don't test for that. But what they won't volunteer for you is they can evaluate. So if you use the word evaluate, can you evaluate my son or daughter for this suspected disability? They have to give you a yes or no answer. So for over a year, I was raising these concerns, and it wasn't until the end of his first grade year when the principal was actually in an IEP meeting, and she goes, oh my gosh, yes, we can do a reading intervention right now. But by this time it was March. And so there was less than 2 months for him to actually fully participate in that intervention. So second grade rolls around and his behaviors are not great, but his teacher is giving him reading, writing, and spelling assignments. He is pushing, he is hitting, he is having full-on meltdowns. And so I called another meeting, and Scott, I had to aggressively advocate for him to be evaluated for what Knox County Schools calls a specific learning disability and reading and writing fluency. I mean, I had to ask 7 different times, will you evaluate him? And the school team just sort of looked at each other. They're like, oh, I don't know. Can we? I don't know. How do we do that? What do we do? And so it took over a year for Knox County Schools to evaluate my son. Then when the evaluation finished, it took months for us to get IEP team meetings together so we could establish reading goals that were informed by actual data that were unique to my son and could help him. And, magically, after he received those interventions, his behavior improved and he could actually read better. So I've had personal experience with the lack of consistency and protocols that Knox County has as it relates to giving students reading support. A couple of other quick things that they pointed out is being short-staffed with school psychologists. And again, this is something that I have personal experience with. The school psychologist that we have worked with at Sunnyview Primary is just an exceptional professional. She communicates clearly, she is very thorough, but she's also part-time. So that made scheduling meetings very challenging because the school only had her part-time. I wish Knox County Schools could clone her and they could make 20 of her. She is that invaluable to this process. One of the most disturbing things that this report noted is it raised concerns about the academic trajectory of students with disabilities. The report noted that there is a significant and widening achievement gap between students with disabilities and students without disabilities. That is concerning. A couple of months ago, you might remember that Justice Knox showed up at school board meetings in force, wanting to have some public data about discipline rates and suspension rates for Black students in particular. Well, this report showed that suspension rates of Black students with disabilities, so Black, African American, and multiracial students with disabilities, are suspended at disproportionately higher rates compared to their representation among students with disabilities from other racial and ethnic groups. So those are just a couple of things that this report points out.
Well, one thing that the report also did is it had some recommendations.
Yes.
And obviously, just from your kind of summary of some of the problems, some of it would be staffing. But what are some of the recommendations that you think have a lot of potential to kind of move the needle on special education for Knox County Schools?
Well, Scott, there were 14 recommendations, which can show you the depth of the challenge here that we have to overcome. A couple of the recommendations that stood out. One was fair identification and placement practices. So in this report, it was noted that school teams often feel like they have to make decisions based on whether or not Knox County may or may not get sued. And one of the tenets of a federal education, special education law requires that students are put in the least restrictive environment, the least restricted learning environment. So in other words, you cannot say because the student has a disability, we are going to send them to a special education classroom and they will not be educated with their peers. They will always be in this classroom. And I do think that there is a lot of training and education that needs to occur within the school at a principal, general education teacher, and special education teacher level to communicate that special education is not a place. According to the law, special education is not a place, it's not a room, it's services and supports that can be delivered anywhere. And sort of putting that in context back to what you mentioned earlier, that's sort of that pre-K model. So in pre-K, Knox County Schools has shown it can successfully put students with disabilities, students without disabilities into one classroom and educate them because they bring the services to a place. They don't just send kids off and segregate them off to another room in the school and say, you're over here, you're going to get your services over there. So that was one of the recommendations that I think is really, really key. They also offered a recommendation for strengthening the alignment of specialized reading interventions. I think that is absolutely key. We've got these new reading requirements now in the state of Tennessee, and Knox County needs to make sure that it is on its game and it is serving students appropriately when it comes to making sure all of our kids know how to read and they are being taught how to read in the way that is going to work with their brain. So that's a key one. They also just, real quickly, Scott, they had a couple of just related to building trust amongst parents. And I think that is a big, big action step for Knox County Schools. For a very long time, within the highest levels of the special education department, leadership within special education has intentionally misled parents and has not been proactive with parents and has not treated parents like they are equals in the development of individualized education programs for their students. And that's something that needs to change. We'll have a new special education director in the coming school year. And so I am hopeful that that leadership change, we can make a lot of progress with some of these recommendations.
All right, great. You know what you're talking about. That was really really good. I can just going back briefly with your son. He went through all of that. You went all through all that with him. What grade is he in now, and how's he doing?
He just graduated second grade, so he will be going to third grade in the fall. He'll be going to Chilhowie Intermediate. We're really excited about that. And he is making progress. Once he got those reading supports and services in place, I noticed a difference. He wanted to read. Also, his handwriting was getting better as well. So I definitely noticed some progress with him.
Well, that is fantastic. Is there anything else, either from the report or just from your experiences in going through the special ed regime, I guess, at Knox County Schools, that you think it's important for people, whether they're parents or not, to take away?
I do. I am now on something called the Special Education Parent Council. So that council should be engaged in implementing a strategic plan, taking some of the recommendations from the report and operationalizing them. I would encourage any parent in Knox County Schools who has a child with disabilities to educate yourself on your child's rights. And to make sure that you are asking for specific supports and services that your child needs. What I have found in meetings with the schools is that I have noticed there are times when it's clear to me that the school teams in central office have been coached to not be proactive problem solvers, that they are not going to offer up a support or a service unless you explicitly ask for it and use the exact right terminology. And so, and that was one of the things that just drove me absolutely insane, because as a parent, I felt like, all I can do is express my concerns to you. And I am relying on the school team that went to school for this, that has the knowledge, that has the expertise to help me problem solve and say, Cortney, we hear your concern about reading, about a behavior. Here's some supports and services, or here's an evaluation that we can do to get more data to problem solve and to help your son. And that was never my experience with Knox County Schools. So it's really on the parents to make sure that they are educated, know their rights, know their child's rights, and ask for the specific right thing. I would also encourage parents out there that have had these experiences with special education to share your story. Change will not happen unless we share our stories and share them publicly. So whether that's emailing your school board member, whether that is going to a school board meeting and standing in front of the board and just sharing your story for 3 minutes in front of them, change will not happen. Systematic change will not happen unless we start sharing our stories, coming out from the shadows and asking for more and asking for better. I know that Knox County Schools is capable of better. I know that they are capable of success for every student. And we will get there when all of us as parents step out of the shadows and start sharing our stories.
Well, great. Well, thanks for sharing your stories with us and our listeners. So I will let you get back to your day now. But thank you very much, Cortney, for coming here, sharing not only your story but also your understanding, your expertise about what's going on in Knox County Schools. And we'll be checking in with you in the future to see what kind of progress is being made.
Looking forward to it. Thank you, Scott.
All right. Thank you, Cortney. Well, I want to thank Cortney again for being here. That was a very informative session with her, and it's always interesting to take a deep dive into something that's going on that most of us don't experience. So I want to thank her for that, and we'll move along to our next segment. Now we turn our attention to next week, or this week actually, and the big thing, two big things. Both of them have to do with the city. City Council is going to vote on the budget. Be the second reading, so this is the final reading of the budget for next fiscal year. We kind of anticipate that Councilwoman Amelia Parker will come up with some amendments that she'll want to make. She's been posting that on social media, and that'll be just fine. We'll see if she can get some support for those. They're also going to vote on the Magnolia Avenue redevelopment district. That's going to be they talked about that for a long time. It's basically all of Magnolia Avenue out to Chilhowie Park and Burlington will be a redevelopment district, which basically means that when buildings get redeveloped, they will have be able to get tax increment financing, which means that the increase in property values from the redevelopment will go toward infrastructure out Magnolia and adjacent to their properties and all that. So be voting on that. It's a very kind of a vague plan right now, but those types of things usually are. Then that's on Tuesday. On Thursday, we don't have a time on this yet. City Council is going to have a workshop on Mayor Kincannon's effort to get the sales tax increase on the ballot. She's got to get it through City Council first. They have to approve it and before it can go on the ballot. They're going to have a work session. I'm sure there will be plenty of questions for her and her staff there, but they're going to talk about that. And it's going to be a very interesting next few months if they pass that to see kind of what the mood of the electorate is going into November. So those are those things that we're going to cover next week, and there will no doubt be more things. For now, I just want to say thank you to Lord Seth Barber for his stellar work as our producer, and thanks also to Will Wright for providing us with some fine tunes with our podcast. And we will see you next week, or we will at least talk to you next week. You don't get to see me, I don't get to see you. I think it probably works out for the best that way. So
I got to see you. Why doesn't everybody else have to?
Well,
if it's a punishment.
It is. Yeah. Well,
to be fair, it's not a punishment anyway. But.
Yeah. Well, yes, it is. But anyway, so once again, this is Compass Points. We are the podcast of Compass, and we can find us at CompassKnox.com. Find us there, subscribe, and we will talk to you next week.
CompassKnox.com is your best source for news and politics in Knoxville and Knox County. If you'd like to learn more about the topics discussed on today's podcast, go to CompassKnox.com and subscribe for in-depth coverage and much more. And many thanks to William Wright for composing our theme song. Compass Points is a partnership of Barking Shark Media and Barbarian Productions, and recorded by Lord Seth A. Barber at Barbarian Studios, Knoxville, Tennessee.